in. But yeah, let's get into today's webinar. So topic is time mastery. The most valuable asset is your time. So let me move this presentation forward. Bear with me a second. Yeah, so first of all, a little bit about Action Coach, if you're not familiar with Action Coach. So we are the world's #1 business coaching firm. We've got more than 1,000 coaching offices around the world in 80 different countries. We are a privately owned and founded business. I'll talk about my involvement with the business in a moment. Brad Sugars is our founder. We started the business in 1993, so very well established. And we also live by our vision of creating world abundance through business re-education, and that's why these webinars are so important. And we do these all around the world. And on this point, we kind of take the opposite view of what you would normally find through like world economics, which is all about scarcity. Instead, we take the view that the world is an abundant place. The more you give, the more you receive, and we want to create world abundance. And key to it is educating the many thousands and thousands of business owners around the world about the best practices around how to run a business. Literally every week around the world, we're coaching more than 15,000 business owners every week here in the UK, and as you can see, in many other countries as well. Just a little bit about me before we get started. So I own the franchise for Winchester, Basingstoke and Farnborough. I'm a business owner myself. As a result of that, I'm the managing director, and I'm also the head coach of the team of coaches here in the business in Winchester, Basingstoke and Farnborough. I'm also an experienced business owner, so I do know the challenges that business owners face day in and day out, and the opportunity that comes with running your own business as well. I've co-founded, built and sold my own technology startup. I've also held very senior positions, executive positions in some very famous businesses like Walt Disney Company, where I spent 7 years, and Condé Nast, where I spent 5 years. I actually, though, discovered my passion for coaching in 2017, and I went back to Henley Business School, where I'd previously done an MBA, and I studied professional coaching, and that's really where I kind of really discovered, say, my passion for coaching. And then I discovered Action Coach, and now Action Coach and my team here in Winchester, Basingstoke and Farnborough, and all of my lovely clients are really what I focus on and I dedicate my life to. So to get the most out of today's webinar, I really do would just recommend that you give this your full attention for these 60 minutes or so. We say in Action Coach that the only failure is the failure to participate. Give 100% and you'll get 100% back. And I'm going to explain in a moment a little bit of an exercise we're going to do at the end of the webinar to really try and help enforce the learnings from today, but a way that you can continue to participate through the webinar as well. We also, in Action Coach, have this principle. We call it the point of power, and it's this choice that you can make of your behaviors. And so in our coaching and in our webinars, we want us to, in order to learn and have that kind of learning mindset of all these 6 possible behaviors that we could you could be choosing to use in the next 60 minutes. We want to put all your pressures of the outside world away for the next for this hour, and really take those positive actions and thoughts. Being responsible, being accountable, and taking ownership. So think positively, and you'll also get the most out of this session today as well. And also just be very careful. If you hear yourself saying these 2 very dangerous words, I know, then what you're doing is actually giving a trigger to your brain to say, don't take this new information on board. So I am going to be imparting quite a lot of information today. I'm sure some of it you will have covered before, perhaps heard, whether it's exactly the same or slightly different versions of it. But these are 2 dangerous words, so try to replace them with instead the very powerful words of "isn't that interesting," because that then signals to your brain that, I may think I know this concept, but let me listen to, what Natalie's saying on this particular moment, let me take it on board, and then I'll make a judgment. So really try and have an open mind about the learning today, and then you will get the most out of it. And a request for you, we'll have some fun along the way. We always try and introduce fun within our coaching, because through fun we learn more. And also, we're all familiar with the term, those light bulb moments, those blinding flashes of the obvious. Now, what we're going to do at the end of this, I'm going to create some time at the end, but within the hour, for you to reflect upon the learnings from today, and to have the opportunity, before you leave the webinar and go back to your busy lives and all the challenges that you've got on your plate, give you that moment to really try and structure your thinking a little bit. So I mention this now because the exercise we're going to do at the end is to really think about, based upon what we covered today, what are 3 things that you could consider stop doing? What 3 things could you start doing? What are the 5 things that perhaps you can do more of? And what, to really reinforce those BFO moments, I would suggest write them down as you go. If you feel like sharing them in the chat box, then if you have a BFO and say it's something you want to start doing, put it in the chat box and say, I'm going to start doing X. And then that just helps some other people in the group as well, because if you share your BFO, it might be something they're also thinking about, or perhaps something they haven't thought about. So the value of the webinar is not just listening to me, but it's kind of trying to learn off each other. So please do feel free to share your BFOs, and as they come in, I'll pause at the appropriate moment and kind of call them out. But we will come back to this exercise as well at the end, even if it's just 5 minutes, to allow you to reflect on the learnings before we move on. And my offer to you all of you that are business owners and you're running your own business, is if after today you want to book a complimentary, we call it a strategy session, a business health check, a business diagnostic session with me, and I'd be delighted for you to book in with me. We are going to make a Calendarly invite available, so that you can book directly into there. We'll also follow up with you, and these are great sessions. They are completely free of charge, and we'll really go into a lot of detail about your business. So the offer from today is to please do book one of these complimentary sessions with me. I'll come back to that offer at the end as well. So let's get into today's topic, and it's all about time mastery and this concept of turning chaos into control. That's what we like to think about within mastery overall. And time is our most valuable asset. We can never get back time. In today's world, particularly during things like lockdown, people may say, well, I've had quite a bit of time. Maybe not so much if you're a business owner. But the reality is, once today is gone, you can't get it back. You can't get last week back. You can't get the last however many years of your life back. You can make more money in the future, but you can't make more time. But you can certainly make the most value of the time that you've still got left. And so investing your time, and even thinking about investing your time and not spending your time, is the key kind of concept behind time mastery. And following that kind of thought, if we consider what is entrepreneurship about, well, it's your ability to convert your knowledge, your genius, and all of your efforts through the investment of your time into money. So that's why time is so important, because how you spend your time will determine what value you can get back from your knowledge, from your genius, and from all the efforts that you make, and ultimately how much money you will make. And on that topic of money, for those that are involved in professional services, I'm sure you're more familiar with the concept of having that kind of chargeable hourly rate, whatever that might be. There's an example here of somebody whose base earnings are £50,000. They're going to invest 1,760 hours of their life this year in their business. And if you do the maths on that, then it means that this person's valuing their time at £28.41 an hour. Now, this for some of you might be, £1,000 an hour. It might be £100 an hour, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The concept I'm going to keep asking you to do in the next 50 minutes or so is to think about each hour having a value on it. And certainly when we start to look at all that unproductive time that isn't directly going towards building that future for you, building that directly certainly generating revenue, then, you know, once you quantify that time and you discount that time, then you can kind of see with the example here, you know, if somebody who's actually 75% productive and revenue generating, and it really brings down your worth per hour as well. So this session is all about how do you get the most out of the time that you've got available, and how can you really consider that to be investment rather than spending, and actually really value your time as well and put a value on it. So in time mastery, we've got 3 topics to cover. We've got self-mastery. You might want to think about this being self-discipline. We have planning mastery, and we have delegation mastery. And we're going to cover all 3 topics, which is why we've got a lot to kind of pack into this session today. As I say, please do, if you've got BFOs, please do feel free to put them in the chat box. So this is our definition in Action Coach of what successful business is. And it's a commercial, importantly, profitable enterprise that works and works consistently, and importantly, can work without you. So, you know, a lot of people I meet as prospective clients, and I start out working with as initial coaching clients, and they are very happy working in their business, and that's fine. You know, we perhaps all are. I enjoy working in my business as well, seeing it grow and working with my clients. But what we at Action Coach are mindful of, and we want for all of our clients, is that they can build their business up and it can work without them. And then they've got choices and freedom of what they then do going forward. You know, they're not just defined by their business. And so that then introduces really the concept of learning to work on your business rather than just in your business, because it's that working on your business that's going to improve your business, improve the capabilities, and advance the business for the future. And so we're going to come onto this concept of how can you get time so that you can work on your business and not just work within it. And within Action Coach, we work with our growth system, and it's made up of these very, very straightforward steps. And the first step is mastery, and that's what we're here today talking about. But within mastery, as well as time, there is what we call destination mastery. It's all about making sure we understand those longer term and 1-year goals, that 90-day plan that you might need, or you do need it in business. It's your time mastery. It's your delivery mastery. You know, are you delivering to your customers consistently what you say you will? And then importantly, it's financial money mastery as well. And in this first step of our 6-step system, we're looking to eliminate any chaos that exists within your business by having the best possible foundations in that really stable platform to build from. Because then, knowing we've got a really solid business, there are no holes, it's not a leaky business that once we start to turn up our marketing activity, turn on the marketing tap, what we want to have confidence of is that the majority of that revenue, we can turn as much of that into profit as possible. And importantly, that we can have predictable cash flow in our business, because, you know, if you don't have predictable cash flow, you haven't got that confidence to invest in teams, invest in systems, you know, all those things that are going to allow you to build your business and improve your business. So our third level of our 6 steps, and it's one to really, really highlight that's relevant to this topic of time mastery, particularly delegation, is systems. So we work on the principles that, you know, systems run a business, people run systems, and the leadership, the business owner, runs the team. And without systems, you can't have repeatable processes. You can't reliably delegate to your team if you don't have systems and you don't have documented procedures. So there's a real strong connection between delegation and delegating effectively and the importance of systems. And then our kind of magic level, although there's 6 steps, is our 4th step, because once you've got mastery in place, you've got that marketing planning in place, you understand your USP for your business, you've got all the systems in place, and you've got the right team in place and the right structure for growth, then you're at that magic stage where you've got a business that can work without you, You know, you've got a general manager running the business, and then you're at that stage where you've got choices to make. You know, if you want to sell the business, you can be at the optimum point where you can sell it and get the best value from it. You can decide to have the team run the business, you live off the passive income that you generate, or you can take on a whole new adventure and, you know, build the business, copy the business, franchise the business, start other businesses. So in our 6-step system, we work through 6 steps in a very systematic way, not rigidly. You know, we can go into marketing before we finish mastery. We're not too rigid with it. But the principle is we work through 6 steps. Mastery is the foundation, and time mastery is absolutely key to the 6 steps. So we talk self-mastery, and we don't really major on time management, because we like to think that there isn't such a thing as time management. It's about our self-mastery of our time and our self-discipline. Hopefully that'll become more obvious as I talk more and more about that. It's about doing what needs to be done. And it's certainly trying to encourage you to find that valuable time to work on your business and to be working less just kind of responding to what's in front of you and putting out those small fires. Now, we're all business owners. We all have a lot of this to do. And until we do build up our teams, then, you know, it's almost impossible to not have this dominating our schedules. But I'm going to show you share some thoughts with you about how to think about breaking this cycle, doing less of dealing with the firefighting and just focusing on that demand-driven activity so that you really can focus on developing your businesses. And, you know, sometimes it does require some outside discipline to help you with this, but the real aim of this, and this is what we do within all of our coaching, is we transfer knowledge to our clients. We motivate our clients to take upon this learning so that you can internalize these disciplines. And that's my aim today, that is that you leave with some new knowledge that you feel you can start to internalize. And there's no better way to do that than, we just love in Action Coach the work of a number of key self-development experts and gurus, and there's no better person than Stephen Covey. And you know, his time management matrix is a very powerful thing to consider. I think we're all quite used to doing to-do lists where we will categorize what's on our to-do list between, you know, urgent and not urgent, and important and not important. But if you really think about strategically your time, and I'm going to come on to another tool for doing this in a moment that I personally use with for myself and for my own clients, but the same principle exists, which is if you, over a period of time, quantify where and categorize where all your time is going and apportion your activities to these 4 different quadrants, these 4 boxes on this matrix here, it'll really hold up a mirror to you as to where you are spending that time. You know, how much of that time is on this category 1 firefighting quadrant, you know, which is that demand-driven activity, you know, responding to your customers, responding to those deadlines that are right in front of you. There's no doubt that that's always going to be a big proportion of your time. But how many of you today actually do spend time in that quality time box? You know, and this is that kind of working on box as well. How much of your time is genuinely going into improving the capabilities of your business, you know, building stronger relationships within your team or with your customer base or your partners? You know, how much time are you genuinely able to take to think about new opportunities for your business? And how much are you able to step back and plan rather than just responding? And of course, the really distracting elements of time are those things that are on those bottom 2, on the bottom row of this quadrant here. You know, this is the not important category of work. And if it's not important and it's not urgent, you've really got to consider that this is probably time wasting. You know, at the very worst case, you should be looking to delegate this kind of activity. But you really, again, analyzing your time, apportioning it to these 4 quadrants is a really effective way to, first of all, just analyze where your time is actually going. So are you in the zone? Are you in quality time? Are you spending some of your time in quality time? Where else is your time going? There's no better way to look at that than at a kind of a classic target. You know, where we want to be is putting some time into the bullseye of the target, and minimizing certainly the time that we're spending on this non-urgent, non-important activity. And also, you know, you might spend more time on the urgent but not important, but still needs to be done. But again, how much of your time is on that kind of activity? I think for any of the business owners on the call today, there is no doubt that even if you're really, really good at allocating some time to work on your business, probably that demand-driven activity is going to be dominating your time. But, you know, can you get that to be more like 60% than 90 or 100%? So, you know, that urgent, important activity, it needs to be done, but can you put some kind of limits on it? Because what you really want to do to improve your business, spend time in that zone, you know, the not urgent, but that important, that quality time activity. If you can get yourself to 20% of your time goes into that, you're really going to start to move you and your business forward. It's that working on your business time. So where is your time going? You know, what are your top 10 time wasters? How much of your time are you spending in that zone that we've talked about? How much time are you in all of the quadrants? What could you delegate? We'll talk more in a moment about delegation. So this is a really great tool. It follows Stephen Covey's matrix model that we've been through, but for me, it's a little bit more helpful in analyzing your time. And what I'd really encourage you to do, perhaps over the next week, the next month, is really apportion all of your activities to one of the boxes on this grid. So this gets you to plot your time, your activity against what level of skill is needed to do that activity, how valuable is that to you, and what you're trying to do here, the equivalent of the quality time, the work on time box, is that top right-hand quadrant. That's the equivalent. So what you want to see is that either you're not currently making any time for that kind of activity, or that if it is blank, how can you create some time so that you can work on your marketing plan? You can develop a 90-day plan for your business. You can spend more time developing the skills of your team. So, you know, the golden box, the time that's most valuable for your business for the future, is that top right-hand quadrant. If you're bound to, when you first map this, you're bound to have activity that's across all of these different boxes. But certainly when it comes on to considering things to delegate, then there's no doubt that that bottom left-hand box where it's low value, low skill, that's the low-hanging fruit for you to think about then outsourcing, you know, delegating to team members if you have them, to finding a specialist at the appropriate cost. You know, so if you've determined that your hourly worth is £50, you know, anything less than £50, you should be somewhere else on this value grid that's not on the top row, and you should be looking to see how you can, with some time and organization, work that out of your schedule so that you really can work on your business. So that's a key tool for mapping your time. But then how can you plan your time better? And so, you know, planning mastery is all about, you need a plan. It's got to be an action plan. It's got to be based on what to do and what needs to be done. And it needs to be a written plan. So it's on paper. It's on paper, you're going to do something with it. And it's not got to be theoretical. It's going to be a plan that you're going to work with. You know, your plan needs to cover all of the hats that you wear within your business. So if you are, you know, a solopreneur, you are the general manager, you are heading sales, you are running marketing, you are running the operations of the business, you're the head of finance, and you're head of any people activity, or for the future in particular, you still have all those activities to plan somewhere within your week, somewhere within your day. You need to invest time to think through and write this plan clearly. And one technique that's really good for making sure that you're going to be effective tomorrow is to do your activity planning at the end of today. Do that today, ready for tomorrow. Don't get into tomorrow not having tomorrow planned. But let's talk a little bit about some tools for doing some really effective planning. But actually, just before I do that, one of the things to really think about as well, and we'll cover a little bit more of this later as well, is to really think about who's wasting your time. And if you, with your sales hat on, particularly if your role is a sales professional in the organization, one of the things that I find is it's really easy to hang on to those clients and accounts that consume far too much of your time. So just to show you how our coaching works a little bit more 3D than just to look at analyzing your time. Here's a great technique to kind of to follow. And this is what we call ABCD rating of your customers. So your ideal customers, your awesome customers, your A-grade customers are the ones that when you analyze how much profit each of your customers brings to you, I'll bet you that your awesome customers are the ones that are bringing you the most profit, and they probably also take the least of your time as well. So these are the precious customers that you want to invest time in. The further we go down this rating, customers still very valuable. They're not quite our awesome customers. We still make profit for them. We might be spending more time with them, but nevertheless, they're our kind of B-grade customers. Forget the wording on this, can't deal with. That's not so much the important element of showing you this. It's more than considering the concept that as you go down here, your C-grade customers, it might be that you can deal with them, but it might be that they bring you very little profit. And again, they're taking more of your time as well. So, again, by classifying, literally going down each of your customers, putting them in an A, B, C rating, working out for yourself what is an A, a B, and a C, but with the kind of parameters of profit and use of your time or consumption of your time in mind. And then the category that you really, really want to consider dropping, I like to use the word drop rather than dead, is those you can guarantee that your D-grade customers don't actually bring you profit. They might even actually have a negative impact on your profit and loss of your business. And they will be taking your time. You can guarantee these are the late payers, the people that always need chasing. So genuinely, if you've got a choice of customers, you're at that stage, really seriously consider dropping these D-grade customers. But this is just trying to give you one lens on how to, practically in a commercial way, look at exploring your time and putting a value on your time and being precious about your time and not wasting your time with customers that don't deserve your time in this particular example. So you do need to consider where the hours in the day are going, where the days in the week are going that you're currently spending. But a great technique as well to follow when we come to our planning of our time is to think about chunking your time up, because the more you can relate activities into chunks, the more effective you'll be with your time. And a really good way to do this is to create yourself a default diary. So this diary here, as you can see, completely blank. All it is all the practical working hours of the day, wherever they mean for you. It says 5:45 to 5:30, whatever your starting moment of the day is. Days of the week, definitely encouraging people not to work Saturday and Sunday at some point when they're at the right stage with their business, because you need to refresh for the next working week. But I'll give you an example. So for me in my business, I coach clients on a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Thursday. So, that's when I dedicate my time. So my Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, 9:30 through to the end of the day, it's dedicated to my clients. But what that allows me to do is to quantify how much chargeable hours effectively I've got on the one hand, but it also says that right now I know I've got 2 days of the week left. So for me, my Monday morning is my team day. It's my time with my team. It's my time with my team. It's my default diary. Then the Monday morning becomes the default diary for my team as well. And it becomes their team time together. So my team opportunity with my team is the Monday morning. Monday afternoon is for my business development. So I try to encourage, my marketing activity, my sales calls to be ideally where I can, put them into a Monday afternoon. And then my Friday is for my learning and for the activity that I do with a bigger action coach kind of family business as well. But whatever your diary is, chunk your time up. And then what you're not going to be finding is that you're not going to be switching from one activity to the next, because every time, you put, say, down your focus on marketing and you pick up operations, the time it takes you to get back into with your operations hat on, or to put your marketing back on, it's all taken away from your productivity. So chunking your time up, having a default diary, really, really valuable tool. I've already mentioned it, but end today by planning your activity tomorrow. So in Action Coach, we have this, we call it our daily activity sheet, our action list. And it's got a number of things on here, everything from a basic, this is how I'm going to plan my day tomorrow, from, it takes your default diary, but then you kind of plan a little bit more specifically about what I'm going to do, on my Thursday tomorrow. It's got a lot more on this as well. Those important emails that you're going to make, there's a special place on the form there to note those priority emails that you've got to do tomorrow, those calls that you're going to do tomorrow. It also has this concept of eat the frog. So we all have those kind of activities. It might be, making that sales cold call first thing tomorrow, or putting that off throughout tomorrow if you don't consider the concept of what's your frog of the day. So the good thing about this sheet is whatever your activity is, that's your, it's taking you out of your comfort zone tomorrow. It's that one activity you really, really don't ideally want to do. Put that in the frog box. And then when it comes to tomorrow, do that first thing, or as soon as it's practical. That way, it's not going to be nagging at you, playing on your mind all day. You're going to get it done, get it over, feel great about the fact you've eaten your frog early on. And that's a great technique. But all we're trying to do with the activity list is make it creative, block this up so it's got different sections within it. This is a great format. It also has a space here, because we encourage our coaching clients to always be reflecting on their learnings as well. So, the more that we can reflect at the end of today on what we've achieved today, it helps our positive thinking for what we might do tomorrow. So absolutely endorse having a daily activity sheet. This says do this for 90 days. My encouragement is to do this for 21 days. Learn, ingrain this as part of your discipline, your self-discipline, your self-mastery, and then you'll always want to do it. So along with, your default diary, understanding that skills value matrix, where you're spending your time, what possible time you could consider giving activity to other people. Those are absolute key tools that you've got in your armory to really help you with your self-mastery and planning. So the final area I wanted to kind of focus on today is delegation. And coming back to the thought that at some point you want to have a business that works without you, then if today can be that starting point of you starting to think, even if you can't do much with this thought today, it might be something for 5 years' time, but have this on your consciousness that if the business is going to work without you at some point, say it's 5 years' time, then you've got to have a conscious attempt to replace yourself, fire yourself, and then you replace yourself with somebody even better than you are. So again, coming back to today, what are those skills that only you have in your business, that precious top of that skills value matrix, the things that you do extraordinarily well, the specialities that only you can do and bring into your business. Then if you focus on them now, but start to develop your team so you can delegate even these special activities to your team over time, then you will be in the position in the future that you can replace yourself. So welcome your dispensability, but it's all about understanding what these activities are that are uniquely only you can bring to your business. But even with these, start to consider one day that you're going to delegate them and hire other people that are even better than you, more specialist than you, to actually replace you in the future. But living with the here and now, we've got to start to work some of that activity off of our to-do list, off of our activity list. So before we talk about delegation, let me talk a little bit more about systems. So we have the rule that do a task without writing down the how to do this task, and then you're destined to repeat it. And it makes it almost impossible to delegate it effectively. So the way we can get things written down is to systematize our business. And we, again, work within that systems, that step 3 within our Action Coach growth system, the 6 steps. We work upon systematizing the routine and being able to keep that precious human activity, that that exceptional work that needs to be done, those special touch points with our customers. So here we're looking ultimately to, have all of our how-to systems documented, all of the end-to-end activity within our business documented, ideally automated, but we're looking at, what's routine, what can be systematized, what's special, what are those exceptions. And, if you can get 80% of your business systematized, not 100%, you'll never achieve 100%. Get 80%, you're in a really great position to have things documented so that you can reliably delegate to the people in your team or outsource activity. So with that thought in mind, though, and thought that everything needs to have a written procedure in order to be able to delegate, then how do we go about good delegation? So first of all, we're back to our analysis of our time. What are those things that we can delegate? Let's look for them, and then let's start to consider delegating them. Also, to be an effective delegator, you've got to believe in the principle of delegation, and it's about, I'm ready to let go. I don't need to be the person that does all of this. If you're one of these people that are of the mindset of, to do a job well, I've got to do it myself, then that's really going to work against you with delegation. So a big part of this is mindset, and saying that if there's activity on that lower value, lower skills activity, it's a candidate for delegation. As long as I've got procedures written, then I should be able to effectively delegate that, and I will. Then you're on the beginning of your journey to being able to allocate some of that precious work on time. But we're looking to delegate properly, and not just to what otherwise could just be abdicating and then not getting the work done properly. And that's where you get into this kind of vicious circle of thinking, to do this, I have to do it myself, because you haven't properly delegated it. So we've got to train people. We've got to measure their activity as they actually perform these tasks. Obviously, if it's a basic task, there's less complexity to this, but over time, you're going to be delegating more and more kind of slightly riskier activity, and you've got to be able to help people take risks as well. So key things to consider here within this is define what needs to be done. Be certain that the person that you're going to delegate to understands what it is you're going to be delegating to them, so that you're not just abdicating this and kind of, a bit of a hope and a prayer that they'll get this done. It's really important that, I think we can all probably appreciate this, that if you understand why you're being asked to do something, why it's important, then and you have the framework and the context, then you're more likely to embrace it and want to do it and get some value from doing it as well. So explaining why is extremely important. And this talks about not micromanaging. So how do you not micromanaging the first time you're delegating something? So I always like to think, if you take an activity that might take somebody a whole day, and if you, even if you've got it written down as a procedure, but you let that person, for the first time they do this, you just let them run with it for the whole day, then you risk them wasting a day if they do kind of get this wrong. Whereas if you chunk up the activity into, say, in that example, 6 steps, each one's going to take about an hour roughly during the day, and you check in, you have a process of reporting on how is that person that you're delegating doing at each stage. Then in that example, the worst case, the person's kind of going to take a wrong deviation for no more than an hour. And then you're going to have the ability to kind of check in with them, see how they've done, put them on the right path, so that, when the and the next step, then they're on the right track and they get on with the next step. Obviously, over time, you don't need to do that. You can let them get on with the whole activity and the whole day and know it's going to be done. So having that how-to process agreed with them, having that deadline for completing it, but those checkpoints so you can control the activity and know that it's being done reliably and done well is extremely important. And making sure that the individual that you're delegating to plays back to you, that they understand why they're doing it, how they're going to do it, when they're going to check in with you, and importantly, when it's going to be done. These are all great things that will mean that you delegate effectively all those things that are on that list of things that you do now want to encourage others to do rather than you doing them. And if you practice these, you get that success and you feel that these early things that you delegate can be delegated with success, then you'll be encouraged to do even more over time and delegate the more complex things within your business as well. So building your own self-confidence with delegation is extremely important. If you follow these kind of steps and principles, you will do that. Starting to kind of wrap things up a little bit to give you some time to think about that exercise of that I mentioned at the beginning. Here's some kind of top tips. So I've already mentioned it. Don't finish today until you plan tomorrow. Eat that frog for breakfast every day. Amongst your activity planning, what is that thing that you're least looking forward to do, and get it done as early as you can the next day. Absolutely don't major in minor things. Value your time, prioritize the major things and focus on the major things, not the minor. Create that default diary and then stick to it. Improve it, but stick to it. And once you've got your default diary, you can start to kind of replicate the default diary across your whole team. And that's how you all become effective as a team. Really embrace the concept of investing your time and not just spending your time. Basic things like certainly minimize the amount of time that you're on Zoom calls and you're in meetings, but certainly either you have an agenda for it or you insist on seeing an agenda so that it's a valuable meeting for you to be attending and that it's going to be well structured. And learn to delegate to your team, because then you can get things off your plate and you can really start to do that valuable 20% working on. And hire an action coach is obviously the thing that you can do to help with all of your self-mastery and planning and delegation. So this is kind of me as well. Increasingly, as I get busier and busier, I'm become militant about my time. Resent having your time wasted. We've talked about even considering your customers, that A, B, C, D rating of your customers. Are you being tough yourself on your time and that concept of investing your time and not spending it? And are you being tough on others as well? I'm actually going to come back to these next couple of slides in a second, because we have got a little bit of time to talk about interruption strategies. So here's a couple of thoughts on how you can deal with people that do actually start to interrupt. The first one sounds a little bit rude, get lost, but it's different to that. It's about techniques of making yourself inaccessible. We kind of all know perhaps little ways to do this, but the more you can put a ring around yourself and make it difficult for people, not customers, but people to access and plagiarize your time, the better. The classic things of, don't answer the phone, have your voicemail, put that steel curtain around you, things with messaging and social media and emails, block your time there, get on that default diary, put some dedicated time to do that, but don't be constantly going back and looking at your messages and your emails throughout the day. Have default diary time where you might do that after lunch and at the end of the day. But in between, don't get distracted by those messages. Where you do need to set a time. So if you do get somebody call you, adopt a technique to say, look, in 5 minutes time, I do have 5 minutes to speak with you, but in 5 minutes time, I am going to be taking another call. But, set the expectation that, yes, I've got 5 minutes, but only 5 minutes. And the important thing as well is that busy people who look busy, often are the ones that get interrupted the least, because you just create that sense that, your time is precious. So if that helps, some interruption strategies as well. But what I really wanted to do at this point is just to say that we've got slightly over 10 minutes left. Please do stay on in the room. I'm going to remain in the room as well. Please do, before you leave, take the time to think through your BFOs from the day, your key learnings. You know, what are those 3 things that you could stop doing, whether it's the self-mastery, the planning, or the delegation, or even one from each? You know, what are 3 things that you've learned that you could start doing? And importantly, there's going to be things that you already do, but what could you do more of that you feel is valuable towards your time, and you're investing your time and not just spending it. So I really would like you to leave feeling that you've got some value, you've got some real kind of action points to do. But as people will probably start to leave at your own discretion, please do book in for a complimentary one-to-one with me. Strategy session. We'll really work together through the 6 steps and show you how, through coaching, we could help you grow your business and embed some of the practices that we've talked about today. Not just time, but systems and team. I'll leave you with this exercise. I'll put back up the 3 headings, and I'll literally leave the webinar room open. And just please do that. If there's any BFOs you want to share with the group, then please do. And I look forward to seeing you next time, either another webinar or in one of the complimentary sessions. Thank you very much.